All right, guys, what is going on? Back with another video, and I got some pretty devastating news that's coming out of Washington. It's nothing really major, but it happened to a homeowner and a guy who had a really big collection, and I find this very heartbreaking to see. Basically, he got his house broken into, and he lost all of his Nintendo collection. I mean, all the games that he had, they're gone. And I think he was like maybe 2 or 3 away to having a complete collection. Is quite devastating, man. And I want to talk about this, give my thoughts and opinions on this, because it's pretty horrible to see this happen. And just to watch this guy break down is devastating. And for people who collect games like myself, I really, 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 absolutely, really, 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 really feel for this guy. It's pretty bad. So let's look at this. I want to jump over here and give you my thoughts and opinions on this. Like I said, it says Washington family Nintendo collection was stolen. Give my thoughts, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into this.
A Washington family is in desperate need for answers after a burglar broke into their home and stole a prized Nintendo collection worth tens of thousands of dollars. The family says the games were more than just valuable collectibles, as many held years of memories and personal meaning. Brady Wakayama has a look at what happened.
Devastating.
An empty feeling towards something that was once full of life.
I shake, I get headaches, I get all this stuff. It's just, I don't even want to look at them. You know, I mean, the shelf, I want to rip that shelf out and get it out of my house because I know it was there.
Roger Holler and his family were out of town last week. When they returned home Sunday evening, they discovered someone had forced their way inside. And the shelf that held hundreds of classic NES games, a collection that took nearly 4 decades to build, had been cleared out.
I'm like, why are you kidding me? Kind of thing. Obviously, there was some other choice words I said that night that happened. I punched the wall, I kicked the wall. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
For Holler,
I mean, you can look at him. This guy is devastated. It is so horrible to see something like this. And look at some of the games he had. Like, some of these games aren't easy to find nowadays. Cowboy Kid, look at that. Secret Scout, Secret Storm. I mean, you can find soccer and Tecmo NBA basketball. I have Tecmo NBA basketball, but those other 3 games, I'm gonna be quite honest, I never heard of those games before. It's kind of crazy. He has a retro gaming expo tag. It's kind of interesting. I'm gonna talk about that in a second.
these were never just old video games. His mom gave him his first NES console when he was 11. That gift started a lifelong passion, one he later shared with his own family.
To me this week, it feels like I'm losing my mom again. But similar. I mean, it's different. Your parents are your loved ones, but this was my other love. This was my other child. I have 3 boys, but this was my child. I mean, I started this before they were even born.
He says he had more than 860 games.
I mean, this is devastating. This is unreal. This is crazy.
Spending years hunting through stores, driving across Washington, and traveling to gaming conventions. He was just 3 games away from completing the full NES library.
It was going to go to the grandkids. It was ultimately going to be for them, for their college education, whatever the case may be. That was what the end goal was going to be for. Not for my kids. They're going to be mad now that they know that, but truly, that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to put it towards them.
He sounds so heartbroken, and I feel for this guy too. This is really, really bad. I mean, listen, I understand, you're going through all of this to try to collect these games, and you can see in the back of my videos, I have a lot of games too. I have a lot of NES games, but most of the stuff you see are the disc-based games, and it's like, you just got to be careful with this type of collection because people could come after you. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that more in a second.
It was valued anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000.
To watch that essentially lifelong collection just ripped out is heartbreaking.
Chris Sterling grew up on the hunt with his dad, riding along as they tracked down the next game. Now they're tracking down who stole their collection.
I guarantee you if you were to show up tomorrow and say, hey, here's your things, I apologize, he'd probably just hug you, cry, and say thank you, because that's just who he is.
A man with a fierce passion that has now decided to call it game over.
And truly, this definitely hurts, and I don't think that I will ever collect another thing again in my life.
So, I mean, like I said, this is pretty crazy how that went down. I mean, this guy lost everything, all of his collection or whatever the case may be, and he wanted to give it to his kids, or sell it off for his kids to go to college or whatever the case may be. And it got to be devastating. This guy's been probably collecting this stuff for, 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, and it's gone. And like I said, for me, how I relate to this, because I collect a lot of games. Like, this is only some of the stuff you see that's behind me. I got another whole half of stuff over here. Got some stuff downstairs. But I will say, at some point, I did think about just like stop buying, physical games, and probably putting this stuff away somewhere that's not in the background. Because I really thought about it. Because first of all, I need more room. I thought about just putting it in another area that's not in my game room, and just have the games just put up somewhere else because of stuff like this. You just never know who's watching. And I wonder, like, do he have like some type of YouTube channel, or do he displays this stuff, or was it somebody that he knew that actually knew how to that what he had and got into the house? I mean, either one of those could happen. 'Cause, like, be quite honest, I love my childhood friends. I love the people that are in my circle, but I don't hang around with a lot of people. It's just usually me, my wife, and my son. I don't have anybody I really hang around. It's just me. And I don't bring people up here or anything like that, because, it's not necessarily I think that somebody's going to do something in my collection, but I just don't like people around my stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just always been that way. And I wonder if he's went through the same thing. Like, he had this same issue where that these guys or girls or whoever he was around, they knew what he had, or does he have like a social media presence where people know what he has and he displays it and shows it off? Because like I said, I'm guilty of that as well, where I do have this collection, but most of this stuff is for the people on the internet. Like, people locally or people who know me, they don't really know what I got going on up here. Like I said, because I don't deal with locals anyway. I live in a place where most of my family are a little bit more spaced out, so I don't know. But I've always thought, regardless, I don't think my collection is worth that much anyway. So I always thought about just probably toning it down and just putting it somewhere else, because of the fact that I always had a thought that something like this could happen, especially when I did that video about the guy Pokedean, when he lost all this stuff, all his Pokemon cards. Like, it made me think about that type of stuff. Like, man, what am I going to do with my collection? Like, I don't think my collection is really that expensive. I think he said his was like almost $100,000 worth of stuff. Mine is maybe, I'll put it like this. I know I have maybe like 3 or 4 games in my collection. Honestly, like 3 or 4 games in my collection that are really, really expensive. Like, I'm talking about $100 type expensive. So it's like, for me, I don't really buy rare games like that, and I don't go for full collections. I got your run of the mill stuff that you'll probably see at GameStop anyway. So it's not none of the things that I think that's valuable per se. And I know it's not. So, but it made me think, like, should I put my stuff away? Should I put my stuff away from the camera? Should I have like a more of a moratorium of like consoles and just paraphernalia instead of just the games? Because nowadays, Pokemon was a thing. Tomorrow it could be these things. And I think once it get to that point, I'm gonna be quite honest, I'll probably just sell into the hype and sell this stuff off at that point. When it gets to that point, because like most of these games are already played already, most of the games are already completed, most of the games I've at least played more than once. So it's nothing to me like, oh, I gotta keep these games for instance. I just keep it as a hobby. But this is something that could be happening to anybody, and this is really devastating. I really feel for this guy. It just makes me think about what I'm gonna do with my collection. Like I said, it's not that valuable. Nowhere near his. I got a bunch of just random, not random. I got a bunch of common games. So a lot of my games are like, whatever, right? But I wonder how other collectors feel about their collection. I know some people are like, hey, I think I want to take some of my stuff out of the background, or I don't bring people around. It's just devastating about this. It just makes you really think about what's going on. But nevertheless, what are you guys' thoughts? What are you guys' thoughts? What do you think about this situation? I just think it's devastating, and it does make me think a little bit about what I'm going to do with my stuff. Maybe I will, tone it down. I know I'm not buying too many physical games nowadays anyway, but as far as like having stuff in the background, showing people what I got, people can get jealous and break into your place, so you got to be really careful. That's why I don't have people around. But yeah, it's just something to think about. But nevertheless, you guys let me know what you think. Man, I feel for this guy. I really do. It's really sad. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace.